What's up, guys? This is Wenzes. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're talking about manifestation. So actually getting a thought into reality, making something happen that was just an idea. And most of the time the things that we actually think about are not that difficult. There have been like a lot of systems how this has been done. You know, there's so many ways to find like a partner. There's so many ways to start your own business. There's so many ways to like be great in social environments and not be anxious or not feel like I don't deserve to feel like this. So most of the time it's those limiting beliefs that are keeping us from this. And I'm not gonna get too much into limiting beliefs here because there's so many videos on this and you can check them out there. But I want you to become aware of it, that those things, those limiting beliefs are the main thing that are keeping us from actually manifesting what we want. And you know, like over the last 12 months, besides the fact that I did my business and I stopped working because that was already the year before. I manifested a relationship that I adore so much the way it is, and I never thought would be possible after being single for probably 10 years, maybe, like really, 10 years. And like I've done things differently, and now, oh, look at this happened. Then we're also gonna go and move part-time, or my boyfriend is moving full-time, and I'm probably gonna be there most of the time to Madrid, and then we're gonna stay in like this great apartment. I'll leave you a link below of one of the places we're looking at. So next month we're there, and I'm gonna show you a little bit of the apartment hopping kind of thing, or apartment scouting. We'll see how much I'm allowed to film there. But what I'm trying to say is those things I had as things on my vision board, and I did things that caused me to confront those limiting beliefs. So the thing is this, like, we have all those limiting beliefs, all of us. We have money blocks, we have relationship blocks, however you want to call it. Those are just things that we carry with us. But if you don't do certain steps that will force you to face those limiting beliefs, you are not going to be able to overcome them. And we're not aware of them. So I know very well that there's so many of them in me, now. And the more I do this, the more I know how much I don't know, how much is going on. And what I want to talk to you about today is how you can actively force yourself to face those limiting beliefs, how they're gonna feel uncomfortable. Like, those are feelings of guilt, shame, feelings, fear, whatever it is. These things will come up once you start stepping into an area that you've never stepped into, where you have to force yourself to be seen more, where you have to trust being yourself. And so those are the things that really made a difference in my life. I'm gonna narrow it down to 3 points. And before we get started, I just want to remind you, if you're really able and willing and ready to take the next step, and you say, now is the time, I really want to change my entire life, check out the Epic Life Masterclass. Those are also the things we talked about in the retreat, and it was like a huge success and people loved it. And I know that those are the points that forced me to be there where I'm at now, and I can't wait for everything that's gonna come while I'm doing these things over and over again. So as I said, check that out if you're interested in one-on-one coaching. The link is also in the description, and sign up to my newsletter to stay connected and updated with everything new to come. Now let's start with the 3 points that made a huge difference that I don't talk about too much. I haven't talked about in detail, and I don't think you hear so often in other videos, but they're very, very important. So the first one is, you have to really define precisely what you want. Isn't that like an easy thing? Like, why am I even saying that? Well, have you actually done it? Is it more that you go through life and say, well, I'm not that happy, and I want to change things, and I'm socially awkward. But so what are the goals? Because the thing is this, once we have the goals in place, and when I say goals, I'm not talking about dreams, I'm not talking about a vision. When I talk about goals, I mean that we say precisely what we want, by when, exactly how it should look like, and then really take the action necessary to get there. So for example, if you say, I want to have a new apartment, and like, I love this apartment I saw, and this would mean like it would cost $500 more each month, and I haven't manifested this money yet. what will help is actually for you to go, first off, go see the place, like really be in the energy of that place. Like write down how much it's really going to cost you, how you can reallocate some of your income, and how much do you need additionally. And then you can say, well, I want to have this apartment by December 2019. And I want to have this one, and it's going to cost me exactly this amount. And so I need to manifest $500 more each month in order to do that. And then you can say, okay, if I need to have that money by then each month, let me start little by little. What can I do this week, this month that will make like a bigger change in this area? Because all of those things are just kind of like limiting us. Like, for example, most of the time, the main reason why you're not living in a better apartment, it's not because you don't have the money, because that's a chicken and egg thing. What really happens is that for some reason internally we don't feel like we deserve to have this better apartment, although we like it. If it's in our sphere, if we're aware of it and we don't have it, then there is something keeping us from this. And I know you can't say, well, I'm living in this like small little apartment and then 3 months later I want to live in this huge mansion. Like sometimes those steps are too big. They're too uncomfortable for our mind to deal with all the changes that are necessary in order to get there. But you can really set steps, and you can say, this is where I'm going to go and this is how I'm going to do. So if you say like, what's the next upgrade? Maybe the apartment for like $1,000 more a month is not obtainable, but 500 is. So how am I going to get there? And you have to be in the place, realize that once you know that this is the energy that you deserve, that you want, you're automatically going to go for different things. Maybe it's just you changing a job that will actually give you more money for doing less work and for doing stuff that you love more. You know, those things are the main reasons why we're not getting anywhere. And we have to get our mindset to a point where we say, well, you know, this is gonna cost me exactly this amount, because most of the time we think, oh, this apartment is not obtainable. Well, most of the time it sort of is, once you like really break it down and you know what it means. Like for me, my next big like financial goal that I have on the side, besides like what I want to earn each month, is I want to go to Japan and see the cherry blossoms with my family. And I want to do it in style. I want to travel like very luxuriously and do that. And this is just like one of those goals I have with me, because I just love doing this. And me seeing like really what it takes, how much money it's gonna cost, how I'm gonna do this while having enough security and all of those other aspects, and like creating my life, has helped me a lot to break it down. Because once you do this, once you realize, well, actually $500 more a month, it's not that big of a jump. How could I actually do that? Then you start asking yourself, well, okay, what kind of job could I take on? What could I do additionally? What would be worth my time? And then you'll see that, you know, in most of the cases, you doing those steps will evoke an uncomfortable feeling in you, like a real uncomfortable, this doesn't make me feel good. It's like a shame-based thing and so on. And those are actually things that you've been carrying with you probably since childhood, that are keeping you from wanting this, from growing like to this extent. Because I believe it's in our human nature that we want to grow in whatever way possible. It's not about like, I want to make that kind of money or that. Most of the time, especially when it comes to money, it's more of a thing of that we have negative connotations with money. Once we see money as just like an exchange for how we can show up in the world and how much better we can live, how much more we can help others, everything becomes easier. So don't let that be an issue. I used to be somebody, I said like, well, I can't go for the next bigger job because that would mean that I have to admit to myself that I want to make money, and that making money is more important to me than working with people that I find nice. You know, like that's the kind of belief I had. And I realized, no, I don't have to have that belief, because there are options where you say, I want to be around people that I like. I don't want to have to compromise what I want to do, and I can make more money. This is all possible if we really stick to this. But ways in order to overcome these things that are keeping us from this are really the goal things. That's why I'm such a big fan of the 5 pillars in the Epic Life Masterclass, because they're looking into all of those aspects. relationships, priority management, physical energy management, you will have to force yourself a little bit out of your comfort zone in order for the new thing to become your new normal, for the thing that feels uncomfortable to become like this new energy level, because it's not like uncomfortable because it's physical labor. It's uncomfortable because it doesn't feel like home. It doesn't feel like home, that you're having things easier and that you're willing and able to receive things coming in a nice way. So, people have been telling me all my life, oh, you're so lucky and everything comes so easy to you. And with time, it becomes more and more obvious. And the moment I realized, well, I'm not just lucky. It's not just like, chance by accident or whatever it is. Like, I have enough people who have had all the opportunities I have had. And I'm not here because I worked more. How like so many people say, oh, you don't know any successful people who sleep 8 hours. Well, I do know very successful people who sleep 8 hours, who are much more successful than me, and I as well sleep 8 hours. And I as well am looking at apartments as the one you're gonna see below. That's just the only reason why I said we don't have that is because we have like different options. But those are the things I'm going for. And I have the relationship that I have now because I stepped out of my comfort zone. I did things like online dating where I did a profile, and it was so uncomfortable because I had to overcome this limiting belief that it says something about me. I pushed myself to say once a week, you're going to talk to somebody no matter what. Just do that. Just do that because you want to become a person for whom this is normal, for whom this is not an uncomfortable feeling. It was me who said, well, I want to get on camera and talk and not feel bad about expressing parts of me. And before, I used to not want to do this because I was scared of what people would think about me, that they would realize that I was a fraud. That was never cool to begin with, that now I have to, show you like this side of me. Forcing yourself into those uncomfortable situations will be the thing that will force you to grow, become a new person. And guess what? When you're at this new level, you're gonna see like a new thing. Like I always say, you have to climb up a mountain in order to have a better view to see what the best next mountain is. And very importantly, write down precisely like by when, like calculate. If it's like something you can buy, calculate how much it's really going to cost. If you want to travel to Europe or if you want to travel to Asia, whatever it is, like see what it actually costs. If you're not aware of it, if you don't want to look at something, you can take control of it. Same thing with your bank account. If you don't ever want to see it, look at your bills, if you never want to be aware of where you are financially and force yourself to see that it's not nice right now, maybe even, you can't like make those shifts in order to want that. And they have to be like really precise. I used to be somebody, I didn't want to concern myself with money at all. I didn't want it to be a topic. It kind of like came and went, but I didn't want to look at it. But then I realized when I don't look at it, I don't take control over it. It just happens, and everything that you don't want to take responsibility for will not give you the result you want. And then I realized, well, I've never even anchored things in my life that will help me to actually want to grow in that direction. I wanted to grow in other direction. I wanted to do this. But the moment I said, well, this is going to be a priority for me, that's when things really started changing. And when I hit like those uncomfortable things and those feelings and I got to overcome them, I stayed in that pain every time something happened. I realized it's not because that person said this or because people will see me and then have a judgment about me. I realized that this is something I've been carrying on and on. I overcame it and then moved on, and the next step, things just opened up for me. Once you define exactly what you want by when, realize you don't have to stick to that. Maybe you doing it for like 6 months and your goal is like in 1 month, and then you realize, oh, I actually want something else. You might adjust it. Be very, very clear though, and like really aware and just careful not to just change things so you never reach your goal. It's more about you teaching yourself that you're somebody who reaches goals you set for yourself than really reaching that goal. Because that apartment that you want to have, that's $500 more each month, it's just a stepping stone. it can like really lead to you having the relationships you want, you having the business you want, whatever it is, because you teach yourself, I have a goal, I know precisely how to get there, and I have overcome like limiting beliefs that are keeping me from that. So if you're doing like 6 months down the road and then you realize, well, actually I want another apartment that's like, $2,000 more, and then you kind of like, because of that, stay in the old apartment, but the $2,000 apartment moves like a year or two ahead, like realize that this in itself might be a limiting belief, like that you're saying, well, like I just don't want to be at this position. Like those are like, what are you actually telling yourself? You're still telling yourself, well, the thing I want, I can't have. But if you say like, this is the kind of apartment I want, it's $500 more. Now I manifested that and I'm going to live with that. You're teaching your mind that you can get what you want. And those are the things. It's always about those methods. Okay. So as I said, step number 1, like define exactly what you want. Step number 2, take steps each week and write them down. So that's why like I love to do it in the 5 pillars. You can do it however you want, but the 5 pillars are physical energy management, relationship management, wealth management, vocation. So vocation, some people didn't know what I meant with this. Vocation is really you being the person you want to be, like stepping into the world in a way of how do you want other people to perceive you, what kind of service you want to give, like not just doing all those things and getting money for stuff you don't want to do, but actually like what can you do today to like really show up more. And the 5th one is priority management. So actually to look at those things and say, well, what do I need more of right now? And to have like a plan and take steps every week. Like track that. It's, as I said, it's not difficult. The things that you have to do are not difficult. It's not rocket science. We're not asking you to become like, I don't know, like a doctor in 7 years, like whatever it is, like those things are like outside of what I'm talking about. The thing that is difficult for us is actually, as I said, to force ourselves over and over again to teach ourselves, face limiting beliefs, you can take it, it's gonna feel uncomfortable, and you're gonna like overcome them, and then like the next day they don't even exist. So sometimes I have a situation where somebody says something to me and it triggers something in me, and then it makes me feel uncomfortable, and I sit with it for a minute, like not a minute, like let's say a couple of hours. Then I realize, well, of course, I don't feel like this because of what that person said. This actually reminded me of back in the day when somebody didn't want me to be part of their team, whatever it is. And I stay with this uncomfortableness. I don't numb it. I don't numb it with food. I don't numb it with Netflix. I don't numb it with like alcohol, whatever it is. Or just like, we're so used to staying busy just to not face those things. But if you stay in this pain, you realize, well, I can take it. The next day it's gone, and voila, it's like you don't even realize why that triggered you in the first place. And then you're able to do and see the next step that is more like you. So I have made it my biggest goal to become somebody who overcomes limiting beliefs each and every week, and I do it in those 5 areas. So I either look, it's not like you have to do all of them all of the time, right? My relationships are very solid, but during the last year, especially when I manifested the great relationship that I have now, that I'm so thankful for, and I'm so proud of myself that I pushed myself in all of those areas, I had this on my mind. But I already fixed so many of my relationships with my parents, with my relatives, with my friends, and so this is like one more step. And the next probably months, I'm gonna be focusing more on my business and bringing it to the next level. So when I'm doing that, I'm not gonna be focusing that much on the relationships part, like just all together. But you can have steps that you take every single week in all areas of your life. As I said, you can say once a week, let's say you don't have like a social life that you love, and you feel like, oh, nobody would come to my party and stuff like this. Well, push yourself to say once a week, I'm gonna have lunch with a friend. Push yourself to sign up to do online dating, or to go like to a dance class, or whatever it is, things that really make you uncomfortable, and level up each week. If like one time it was uncomfortable and then it became normal to you, don't just stay there. What is the next step? And by you doing this, it becomes like this natural routine that gives you more and more freedom by going through it. And the last thing I want to talk to you about today, and this one might seem counterintuitive, but it's not. It's actually to emulate somebody's energy. Because the thing is this, if I look at Khaleesi, for example, right? I have a certain energy feeling when I look at that character. You will have a completely different one. There is no objectivity in that. It doesn't matter if you're thinking about like an archetype, like I'm a huge fan of archetypes. You can find things online. They can be mystical, they can be spiritual, they can be religious. There are a lot of like archetypes that help you to capture an essence of what you want to be more of. And remember, everything that you feel about that archetype or that character or like a celebrity or maybe even like a friend, it's not like you're saying, I'm not being myself. It's just saying, I want to have more of that energy. And that energy, like, picture this, you're not being like that other person is. Because the only thing you do is how you perceive that other person. So for me, it was like, especially in the beginning, some of you know this, that I had this martyr thing going on and I was able to take so much. And I was more of like the fighter who could just bear so much pain and like really stick out the worst situations. And, you know, and I always wanted to be like this kind of like precious little thing at the same time. And then I realized, well, the way I want to live my life, I have to create a new image of who I want to be. And at that moment, it was, you know, it was really warrior princesses. It was Khaleesi. It was Lil Kim, like back in the day, like especially 5 years ago, I was all into Lil Kim, like 2002 kind of version of I'm gonna go and get what I want. It was me bringing out my fire, and that is just something I used at that moment. That does not mean that I'm saying I'm not being me, because if you can perceive it, if you see somebody who has some kind of energy that you want, you're the one who puts that energy on that person. You're the one who sees it. Your friend won't see the person the same way. So it's actually you. You perceive that energy and then you say, I want to be more of that. You're not taking anything away from that. I think so many of us are afraid of, oh, that I'm just gonna pretend I'm something else. No, you're not. If you're able to see it, if you're able to perceive it and it feels good, it's like, even if it's not good, that's all your representation of life. That's your interpretation of life, right? It can't be any other way. Everything you perceive, everything that you see is yours. So you decide who you emulate. And it's not like, for me, it was like really hard to understand that this is not a bad thing. And once I realized it's not, it's actually the best thing I can do, it really helped me. Now, for example, I look at, I read so much of people that I look up to. I was, if it was Jen Sincero, now I'm really into Denise Duffield Thomas, and she has a lot of this mentality of be a chillpreneur and, like being that you can be successful and have all of those things while not feeling bad for working 18 hours a day and sleeping enough. And there's so much that gave me that I could see myself in. That's why we always talk about we all need representation on the screen of stuff that we haven't seen before. Because once you have like an archetype or somebody you can emulate to that kind of extent, it really helps us. It really helps us to shape ourselves more and more into the image we want to be. And it's never of, oh, I want to be somebody who, who's not myself. At all. If you like that other people, for example, have like nice things, maybe that's because you want to have like be somebody who has those things. And it's not like everybody is that way. There are other people who are more into security. Other people are more into having nice things. Others are more about like vacations, and it's all good. But all of those things, like also the perseverance in it, the kind of energy that you have with it, the more you're able to have that in front of you and emulate that, the better. I've had also clients of mine who are, struggling with what's the male image in society, how it should be. And realizing that they're more in this, I'm more of a calm leader and more of this. And once you have people that you can look up to, that you feel like, oh, this is actually somebody who I respect very much and who other people respect. And it's not this typical image of what I thought a successful man has to look like, he was able to kind of like allow himself to be more of who he is. And the same thing for me. Like, it's not just about that, but there's so many aspects of see how it can work for you, because there's not one image of this is how a successful relationship, person, whatever it is, has to look like. You know, on the inside, it's gonna feel like something you've never experienced before, or maybe when you were a child and you felt like this complete, like, I feel at peace, but it's not like we're aware of it. And it's never going to be just as you think it is when you look at another person. But having those aspects of, oh, this kind of like feels good, I want to have this in my life, or this and stuff like this, it really helps us to adapt to it. So make it a point, like have some kind of image, study archetypes, see that there's a possibility of to be more of who you want to be, and that you may not even be aware of. And archetypes are a great way to start. Like for me, it really helped me back then. I think it was like the archetype of the priestess, to step more into the next role for me, and so on and so forth. So those are the 3 things. Make a plan, like make a goal very, very precise. When, like how much is it gonna cost? Not just money, but like how much of my energy, what do you want? What are the steps you want to take to get there? And even if you don't know all the steps, what are the next steps? Then the second one is to actually do something every week in order to force yourself to overcome your limiting beliefs that are keeping you from that. And the third one is to actually really look into archetypes, to look into some kind of character, something that you perceive in your reality already that you can emulate more of, because it makes you feel like a more complete version of yourself. Because if you look at a person, just as a last one, if you look at a person and that person evokes an emotion in you, positive or negative, it really evokes emotion in you, it's something that you have within you anyways, and you just haven't integrated in a way where it feels good and it's part of you. Because there are a lot of people we have in our life, friends, but also just acquaintances that we have no emotional attachment to, like in a way they don't trigger us. They aren't that we feel, oh, I want to be like that person, and they're not like, oh, what an idiot. Like every time you have some kind of emotional reaction to that, it's always a side of, oh, I should integrate that into my being. I hope those 3 points help you. Let me know in the comments if this resonates with you, what you're doing, and if you want to dive deeper, as always, check out the Epic Life Masterclass, look into one-on-one coaching, and sign up for the newsletter. All the links are in the description. I wish you, like always, a great week, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.